Hello and welcome back to Suzerain. And we're gonna start out, we got one piece of news, probably talking about, our construction. Construction begins for high-speed railway. Underall Construction has been awarded a 2-year... Now, phone? Really? You haven't even rung in a long time during my videos, and you do it right at the beginning? Really? 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 Rude. Underall Construction has been awarded a 2-year contract for an extensive infrastructure project as part of the L1 high-speed railway project in Swordland. You might be wondering, why wouldn't I just, record a new video, restart if, I've, literally less than a minute into the video. Well, I'm lazy, so get over yourself. Sorry, I'm joking. In addition to the ground investigation, Underall will be responsible for some grade, bridge, track laying, and provide the design of all civil structures, including ground retaining walls and earthworks for railway. Underall said it could build the line at a much lower cost, according to a letter seen by the economics, but the Interior Minister Graf had warned letting the Underall Construction build L1 would be extremely questionable. L1 railway project involves the widening and upgrade of hundreds of kilometers of existing railway between Lachervin and Holsword. The high-speed railway will pass from Anrica and Gilsword, as well as connecting the towns of Diskrat, Anka, and Victorit to the capital. And look, it's continuing! Look at that, it's moving forward. We're doing it. We're really doing it. Economic relief plan. With the assistance of National Business Council and the Central Bank, Simon Hull put forward a countrywide relief plan to mitigate the economic hardships that are being felt. We can either provide stimulus checks for the people in need, or bail out businesses under serious financial strain, or decide not to approve the plan. Do they really need it? I'm sure they're fine. But okay. We gave it out to a big business. We working with them. Maybe we should help the people. Yeah. I think we're fine. That's probably a bad idea, but it's fine. We're all fine. Monetary inactions. Without the stimulus fund needed, many households and businesses are filing for bankruptcy, leading to goods and services being reduced and unemployment rates rising. As such, investments and savings across the country are declining at an alarming rate. Look, it'll be fine, okay? We're fine. Don't worry, everything's fine, okay? Our motorcade headed to the meeting location set by Marcel Currenti. I'd only my most confidential and trustworthy team members with me. Of course, that's why we have Serge. He's my most confidential and most trustworthy team member out of everyone. That always have to have Serge. After a few hours of driving along River Eskel, we took a turn before entering Conrad. The darkness started setting in as we drove up to the hill. Where are we, Serge? We are nearing the HOS Country Club, Mr. President. We'll be there shortly. We arrived and the big iron gates of the country club opened. It was huge and outright extravagant. The main building, inspired by lesbian architecture, was illuminated from all sides. I wanted to just bring Serge, but these two insisted on coming. Serge is really the only person I truly trust, but, they insisted and I let them. It was rather chilly. I was approached by Peter Vector and Lucien Gallad. I hope the journey was comfortable. It wasn't bad. I'm looking forward to this meeting. I am sure it will be worth our time. He is Currenti, after all. Let's get personal. Let's enter the building. We entered the main building. After opening the marble-engraved wooden doors, we were greeted by 2 tall women. The receptionist led us to the meeting room upstairs. Marcel was standing by the window looking outside of the beautiful complex. He turned around to have a quick look at us both. He was a strikingly handsome man with well-groomed hair. He walked towards me with his hand reach out for a handshake. I'll reach out for a handshake. I shook his hand. He had a firm grip. It is sure a pleasure to meet you in person, Mr. Currenti. I appreciate your efforts to reach out and establish a mutually beneficial friendship. Thanks for hosting us. I admire your father very much. May he rest in peace. Welcome. Your kind words have touched me, Mr. Vice President. He was indeed a great man. Please accept our condolences. We are saddened. We would have been very happy to hear this from you, Mr. President. It's time to look forward. Let's talk about a bright future. Yes, there's much to discuss. Believe it or not, I have a secret admirer of your political success. I find your quick rise to power was shockingly well executed. The admiration goes both ways. Marcel gently pointed at the seats. We sat down around a gigantic table. Before speaking, he knocked on wood. The past months have been tumultuous, to say the least. I am glad you and your family were unharmed at the shooting. The whole incident must have been a shock for the kids. They aren't used to what we lived through back in the late 20s. I still remember when my father took us out of the country when it became too dangerous to convoy it. They were startled, but the important thing is that they are safe and sound. Of course, that is all that matters. No family should suffer from tragedy ever again. We had enough of that. Well, I am known to be a straightforward person, so let me get to the point without wasting your valuable time. It was during the Alfonso campaign when I was struck by what you have done within the party. Marcel started to look at one of the paintings at the wall. I'll look at the painting with him. I observed the painting. The famous piece depicted a giant leaping beneath a village. The trees, rivers, and hills were all a part of the giant's body. Its eyes were two caves looking up at the people. It showed daylight at the far left and nighttime at the far right. The giant seemed to be watching the village. It was totally unbeknownst to the villagers. Marcel pointed his finger at me. You said we would transform this nation, Mr. Rain. My conglomerate has a way of doing things, and I don't want them to change. So I want to cooperate with you. Please explain further. You might have the people's support now, Mr. President. What happens when you make mistakes? Everyone makes mistakes. What is that supposed to mean? Let's hear his point, Vice President. Being a president in this country means having many enemies. Enemies that would resort to anything to bring you down. Let's say these enemies caused a scandal or leaked sensitive information from the administration. These would be destructive when they were released. If they were released. I see where you are getting at. You know that a long time before you came here. Let's hear your offer. I want two things, Mr. President. Number one is a guarantee from you that the Rain administration won't meddle in HSOS affairs, no matter what happens. Number two is a simple gentleman's favor for the future. Let me prove my services to you first, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed when the time comes. It is an interesting proposal. Not just interesting, but necessary. You surely know that this is a win-win situation. The media will be on your side, strengthening your position. It will also protect my business operations throughout the changes this country will see. What do you think of this, Lucien? Lucien leaned to my ears and whispered, I think it's a good deal. He is right. We will need the media support. With there's newspapers and channels on our side, we can dodge a lot of bullets. The one thing that bothers me, though, is his favor request. We do not know what it is, and he could ask for something that could point fingers at us. Marcel interrupts us. So, do we have a deal? We have a deal. Happy to hear that. You can contact me personally through this number. As soon as you know that a story against you will break, please call me, and it will be taken care of. I hope you will uphold your end of the bargain as well. I'll shake his hand. I am a very corrupt president. Marcel put his second hand on mine. We will meet again. Goodbye. Thank you for your time, Mr. Crenty. Return to Holsard. You return to Holsard. Media bias. The media in Swordland has faced a significant challenge due to the organized interference from both the state and privatization. The interference has been aimed at controlling the narrative and shaping public opinions in favor of specific agendas. I wonder why that's happening. We should probably fix that. Right, guys? Casaro Kinnear demands emergency to be called. The leader of the NFP, Casaro Kinnear, has demanded emergency be called to address the increasing political violence in the country. He stated that without a declaration of emergency, Sordland would be destabilized, and the integrity of the country would be damaged even further. Funeral Bernard Circus. The death of Bernard Circus has shocked the country, and his funeral will be held in Dier among a large cloud of sympathizers. Circus was not only a communist poet, but also an elected MP that had a voice. A state funeral has been organized to honor him. The question is whether the president and the administration will attend the funeral or not. I will be attending the funeral. Alright. Might as well. The funeral of Bernard Circus. Dark clouds were looming over the air. They looked daunting as our convoy started approaching the century-old cemetery. It looked like it was going to rain, certainly fitting weather for a funeral. As expected, Bernard Circus passing maintained its media traction, and all of Sordland was paying attention to the ceremony, especially to what I would say in my speech today. Sir, we have arrived. Thank you, Serge. Raindrops were running down the car with the window when Serge opened my door and held an umbrella over my head. Aw, sweet. As soon as I got out, flashes from the camera blinded me. Thank you. It's my duty, sir. He silently started following me while holding the umbrella. Peter and Carl exited from their own cars in the convoy. They made their way over to me. Anton, Mr. President. I just wanted to inform you that the perimeter is clear and secured completely. There's no one getting in or out without our knowledge. We don't want something similar to happening again, do we? Absolutely not, Mr. President. The same mistakes will never happen again. I personally made sure of that. Good. If anything happens to Anton, you will have to answer to the First Lady. And trust me, Carl, you don't want that. Peter let out a laugh, which drew some attention from bereaved attendants. Peter, you're being inconsiderate. You're right. Sorry. It started to rain. I'm sorry, Peter. You're just trying to get a laugh out, but we are at a funeral, so. It started to rain. Several unintelligible voices were heard from Carl's radio. He stepped out to reply and returned shortly. We have a small problem, sir. A few, 5 to be exact, Red Youth members are here to attend the funeral. They apparently said they wish to pay their respects to the fallen comrades. Should we let them in? Do you think they pose a security threat? No, they are thoroughly searched. It looks like they really are here to attend the funeral. Let them in, then. As you command. Let's head over. They are about to start. We walked towards the crowd circled around the grave. Everyone in attendance was wearing black in mourning. The rain started pouring heavily. Bernard's widow and daughter were in the front row, staring at the coffin with a mixture of disbelief, confusion, above all, a cold, unforgiving sadness. Both of their eyes were very red and swollen from weeping. Before taking my place to observe the ceremony, I gave my condolences to Bernard's wife and his daughter, who looked at me. She reminded me of Deanna. When the religious ceremony was done, I was invited by the priest to deliver my speech. I took the podium. It felt like I had a lump in my throat. I couldn't get the daughter's eyes out of my head. Today, we are mourning Bernard Circus, a father, a husband, and a loyal servant of this country. Towards the back of the crowd, I spotted the members of the Red Youth, wearing red shirts and black bands of mourning on their arms. They seemed ruly and were respectfully bowing their heads. There was complete silence, except for the sound of round of raindrops. This is a great loss for all of us, for our country. I interpret this attack as an attack against Sordland, and by extension, an attack against me personally. But hatred begets hatred. There is only way to overcome this vicious cycle. We must unite against the evil of this world. I would like to recite one of the poems he left us. Perish those who died fighting. They did not let us sing our songs. They are afraid of the dawn. They are afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. A moment of silence, please. During the silence, all that was heard were the ravens. Some attendants started clapping, some crying. Alright, I'm going to be quiet for a moment for the moment of silence. Alright. The coffin was lowered into the grave by the gravekeepers. After a couple of minutes, Bernard Circus was with the soil, no more. As we bid farewell to Bernard, I want to close the words every sword lives by. Ab magna West Cor! Everyone replied, Vectern Sista! Victory is close. With applauses, I stepped down from the podium. It was time to leave. The widow thanked me with a soft and defeated voice before we dispersed. On my way back to the car, I still couldn't get the eyes of Bernard's daughter, not the faltering voices white out of my head. Would Deanna, Monica, and Frank look the same way if something happened to me? Yeah? Peter put his hand on my shoulder. That was a good speech. I sensed only respect from his voice. Thank you. I mean it. I know you do. Come on, it's time to go. We've got work to do. He was right, we had work to do. So much more to do. I realized that the rain had stopped, and I looked up. The black clouds slowly dispersed, and sunbeams enlightened our surroundings. As someone once said, even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise. Hope was still on the horizon. Yeah. Oh, we got a collection item? Where do we see those? Oh, I no longer need to see the underhaul construction note. I'm good. I'm good. I did that. Yeah. I do have some news. They are afraid of hope, but our song will be sung. Huge crowds of mourners, including President Rain and other senior Swordish officers, joined under a rare display of unity, poured into the heart of the air today to bid farewell to Bernard Circus, the poet and politician who was shot and killed at the gates of Maroon Palace after Rain's inauguration ball. With hundreds of police officers in riot gear on duty and traffic barred on major thoroughfares, the normally chaotic section of the city took on a somber atmosphere. Malkovich anthems played from loudspeakers along Freedom Avenue as Swordish citizens of various ethnicities stood shoulder to shoulder, many of them in tears. Others leaned out windows over balcony railings to watch the processions. President Rain gave a unifying message to all of Swordsland by attending the funeral. He paid his respects to Circus and met with his close relatives. Rain also made an emotional speech that touched thousands of attendants. He finished his speech with a quote from Circus. They did not let us sing our songs. They are afraid of the dawn. They are afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. President Rain's last farewell to Bernard Circus. Scenes of compassion, unity, and respect were recorded during the solemn funeral of Bernard Circus, which the VP and the President attended. President Rain has shown respect and grace by letting Red Youth members enter the funeral to give their final goodbyes to their fellow traveler. This show of compassion is what the country deserves at this period of uncertainty. The new era of Rain administration indicates that the division of the countries might soon be healed. Thousands attend the funeral of Circus. Earlier in the day, mourners of Holsword gathered outside the Maroon Palace where Bernard Circus was shot, holding identical black and white signs reading, "We are all Bernard Circus," and "We are all Malinus." The funeral took place in the air, amid tight security. White doves were released into the air, and much of downtown Deer was closed to traffic. President Rain was among the thousands who attended the funeral. This is a positive indicator that gives us hope that the state might finally be giving up on lynching culture and started to practice self-criticism. Circus murder has stirred debate about nationalism in Swordsland and has been viewed with concern abroad, especially by Malinvis bloc of the East. Yeah, it is quite concerning. Briefing on the current diplomatic situation. Alright, well, back to work. Back to work as always. The Blue Mansion in Lachevin hosted us for this important diplomatic gathering. The door opened and Divis Whiskey, once a lecturer to me, now the Minister of Foreign Affairs, gently made his way towards my desk. "May I sit down, Mr. President?" "Leave the formalities aside, David. Please take a seat." "All right, Anton. I am used to titles, diplomacy jobs train oneself." He slowly sat down, taking care not to aggravate the arthritis in his knees. He'd always had an air of gravitas about him, and old age had only served to deepen that. After he settled himself, he regarded me with delight, his blue eyes sparkling. "Look at you, Anton, the 4th president of Swordland. What a privilege for me. I still remember the first day you took my class at the University of Culture. I remember how hard we worked on the Agnolia trade agreement together. Countless late nights at ministry to finalize. It was an experience for sure. We signed our best trade deal yet, with a good slew of trade advantages for Agnolia. It was even somewhat unfair from my point of view. Somehow, the inexorable ebb and flow of life has led us here, the position where we could change the course of history. Everything happens for a reason, David. It was meant to be. Maybe, maybe not. I don't believe in destiny, but sometimes it feels convenient to do so. I'm looking forward to present you to the latest bill I'm working on. The TCPA has turned out an initiative that can significantly boost our tourism and culture industry. This untapped value would help internally to promote our position. I'm convinced it can also help improve our economic condition after discussions with Minister Hull and Menger. The GNA and USP faction are supportive too. I really shouldn't have done overtime hours to get it done, but I really care for position and value of our culture. Would you like some tea or water? Oh, please, yes. Tea and water sounds nice. Thank you very much. He smiled. Olivia brought 2 cups of tea along with a glass of water and placed them on the table. Thank you. It seems you still remember how much you love tea. Nowadays, it really does wonders for my throat. So how is your wife, Carlin, doing? My lovely Carlin is as energetic as always. Age has hit me harder than her, for sure. She still does her daily jogs, unlike me. Nothing can challenge time. Nothing. How's the Rain family? Monica's really taken to the First Lady role. As time passes, I realize it more. Family is the most important thing in life. We must take care of them. The door opened. Isaac and Lucian joined us for the briefing as the tall case clock hit the hour mark. Peter, however, was missing. I wonder if he was late from all the drinking he did at the party at Lochvin. Probably. We'll talk more later, President Rain. Welcome, everyone. How was your travel to Lochvin? A little bumpy due to some turbulence. I arrived via a military cargo plane, landed at Lochvin International. I took the train. It was a little slow, but I can still recommend it for the beautiful landscape. I also had the possibility to work on a couple of things during the ride. From what I've heard, it will be much faster in the near future when the L1 high-speed railway is finished. Exactly. If all goes well, it will be one of our major achievements. Well then, since Mr. Vectorn doesn't seem to be coming today, I think we are ready to start. I will start by providing a brief overview of our current status with our neighbors. What would you like to start with? I'd like to hear about Agnolia. Our brotherly nation to our northeast, Agnolia. They are still diplomatically non-aligned and probably has one of the most democratic systems between our neighbors. Economic stagnation is worry for them. Their primary issue is their heavy reliance on foreign investments from us. Agnolia is our most friendly neighbor. We have been allies for the longest time after Rimburg annexed Dome. This fact needs to be part of the equation. Unsurprisingly, the Agnolian Prime Minister, Martin van Herten, is expecting better cooperation through new fair trade deal with us. It was one of his election mandates. A more comprehensive trade deal sounds beneficial to all sides. Both sides can gain from it, but Agnolia has more to win than us. They want to protect their weaker industries, which we are profiting from selling our goods to. Additionally, the latest numbers indicate that currently 1 million Agno-Swordist citizens live in the Agland region of Swordland, which creates a link between foreign policy and our internal affairs. These people have suffered socio-economically, which led them to crime and other problems. In addition, a relaxed immigration policy was one of the Agnolia's main requests, which is unacceptable. Most of the migrants in our country hasn't even assimilated into Swordish country. Adding won't help. I'm supportive of relaxed immigration. I would rethink the matter seriously because it has great influence on society and values. We should remember that we promised to keep our immigration laws relaxed in the election campaign. I want to know more about Vagsland. Our cousins of old across the Marquian Sea wish to have good relations with us. As we all know, Vagsland is a socialist republic aligned with United Cortana. They are an important regional player. It's also the most significant sea power in almost all of Mercopa. It is the only country that can rival the superpowers with their navy. We had hostile relations with them after several wars in the 19th century, which we wouldn't want to experience again. Recently, the relationship has warmed up thanks to Emmerich Hegel. As a result, the diplomatic talks can be concluded in the future. Breaking the ice of Vagsland could be good if we are to rise diplomatically. I agree, they could be potential allies in my opinions. The situation in the region necessitates that we find allies. They haven't been in good standings with us in the past 200 years. Recently, they have been also joined the Communist Cortanan Security Pact, subjugating themselves to United Cortana. On top of that, territorial issues that have been flaring up between Agnolia and Vagsland because of the Hedgeland Island. The Swordfish Navy is very concerned with the volatile situation. Lucian looked slightly worried. Unfortunately, billions of Swordfish Rin worth of cargo is transported close to the Vagslandish maritime borders on the Marquian Sea and the Grey Strait. This causes significant risk to our imports and exports in the case of a deterioration in relations. The strait is of high strategic value to us. Iosif, the Navy is keeping an eye on the situation from a distance, right? We are actively monitoring the sea routes and cargo ships. For now, there is no immediate threat, but we don't know what can happen in the future. What's the latest issue on Wellen? It is tumultuous in the south, as always. Victor Smolik is expanding his power among protesters from the Wekx people. However, he is quite positive about a normalization relationship between our countries. Despite purging the Wessex communists, reports indicate they have been warming up to the Cortana international aid. As you know, Welland's stability was always a concern for the region. But if we want to help, then we must not treat refugees like we did in the 30s. We still cannot stomach the inhumanity these people suffered. A trade agreement with them would improve stability and increase mutual trade. There would be many bargaining chips discussed, but Welland could be a new partner in the region. We would also invest in stability there. Our main goal should be to avoid a refugee crisis like the late 1920s. That civil war had major security and economic repercussions on Swordfish soil. One of the demands of President Smolik was to tighten our immigration laws so the political refugees don't escape the Swordland. There has been a recent purge that pushed many Bloodish to flee to Bergia. It is definitely troubling. Grand Outpost has regained its importance due to this. I'm sure you'll remember that winter at the border outpost, Mr. President. He was right. I did remember that winter. I remember how cold it was when I let the refugees slip through. I was discharged of my duties as a result. But Major Isaf Lancia, no less, spending the rest of my service cleaning toilets and sleeping in a cell. In fact, there have been similar refugee situations in the past. Even Mr. President himself chose to disobey direct orders from his commanding officer at the time. And you made me sleep in a prison cell for it. I will never forget that. That is the point of disciplinary action. He opened his mouth to continue, but David cut in. Our focus should be on the current matters. The Bloodish minority is very large inside Welland, too, which is a factor to consider. It is in our national interest to prevent the formation of a failed state on the western border. Welland has been increasingly aligning itself towards the Communist Alliance, another point to analyze. Let's move on. Two important neighboring countries remain, Lesbia and Rumburg, which we'd like to hear about first. Let's hear about Lesbia. Our southern neighbor is aligning itself more and more with Acacia. Lesbia is currently led by Prime Minister Patrico Avacas. They are the jewel of the continent and the second largest economy in Mercopa. Though wealthy, Lesbia suffers from the excessive economic inequality. Our post relations have been great, but during the last decade, our investments in Swordland dwindled due to our instability. Allying with the richest regional nation could be beneficial. It could be, but it would also mean that we would draw closer to Acacia Blah, and near the Arcasian Treaty Organization. Great! I plan to ally with them anyways. I am certain that the recession has a lot to do with their retractions of investments. Once they see that money isn't in the picture, they vanish rather quickly because they are capitalists. They have shown a selfish attitude during the Welland Civil War by closing their borders and funneling refugees to cross into Swordland. The capitalism of Lesbia is inspiration to me. Look at their economic power. Everything comes at a cost. In Lesbia, the cost is wealth inequality, but business people are getting richer and richer. There are hundreds of very privileged oligarchs who invest inside and outside of Lesbia. Some made significant business investments in the cities of Binfi and Vilgen. What is the situation of Rumburg? Now to the most troubling nation, Rumburg, a constitutional monarchy led by Queen Beatrice Livingston. I highly advise caution and calculation against Rumburg. Our military must be prepared. The threat is real. They are strong and have the motivation, as well as the means, to damage us. We shouldn't give them any reason to pursue aggression. I will take your advice into consideration. These types of nation will always try to make a casus belli a reason to declare war. While Thornborough openly denies such claims, their past and current actions make it clear they want to destabilize us. The weapons caches found by our intelligence agencies clearly show what their goals are. Our military must be steadfast and our diplomacy valiant. Ios looks stern and full of resolve. The Rumburg threat is one of our top priorities. You can be assured of that. We are always in dialogue with our Rumburg ambassador to make sure a channel is open to solve disputes. We could use their aggressive attitude against them by convincing the international community. Lucian grabbed the Lachevin Times newspaper and put his finger on the article about the latest diplomatic incident. Their abrupt announcement about the closure of the Rumburg consulate in Lachevin is yet another step in their escalation. This covers the overview of the current situation. We will move on to our trade choice and the response of Rumburg's diplomatic escalation. The sun began to set over the hills surrounding Lachevin. The team was ready to give advice on a new trade initiative and the response to the latest diplomatic incident with Rumburg. Peter arrived late. He looked a little rougher than usual. It must have been the drinking from last night. Hey there, folks. Excuse my delay. I'm sure I didn't miss anything we didn't already know. You were supposed to be part of this meeting an hour ago. Punctuality is important. We are talking about serious subjects this year. They have a point, Peter. We have discipline in the cabinet. Excuse me. It won't happen again. Lucian and Iosif looked at Peter before David moved away from the subject. The vice president will be part of the trade delegation, so it would be great to have his input on the subject as well as on the Rumburg incident. Rumburg Consul Sir Bran Harrington announced the closure of the 120-year-old consulate. Now their diplomatic staff is leaving the city to go back to Thornborough. He blamed the lack of security in Swordland due to the assassination and the subsequent protests, but it's obvious they are making excuses. Bastards! First they closed their consulate, and then they blame our security? The security situation is under control. They are playing with us. Isn't it telling that other countries are working with us, while Rumburg is just cutting more ties with us? The neglect of President Alfonso and the chaos of the election delayed our diplomatic efforts. Now there are only 2 Rumburg diplomatic missions left in Swordland. One is the consulate in Dier, and the other is the embassy in Wholesword. We are accustomed to the usual rhetoric, but this is far more serious. They are playing with fire, but look at what the Welland destabilization has done to the region. Swordland breaking apart would tear Mercopa apart. In my entire career, I've never seen our Rumburg relations suffer this much. The previous low point was the annexation of Dome. Iosif was furious. He barely kept himself from slamming the desk. No, stop! There are worrying developments like the smuggle of arms and the build-up near the border. Our military must be buffed up to stand against a great power like Rumburg. We either respond to this aggressive act with a diplomatic commendation, or we retaliate by closing our consulate in Dome. I want to say that escalation will be risky this early in our presidency. We should focus on creating a negative image of Rumburg in an international scene. The people of Swordland must be protected, no matter the cost. I say we respond equally. Retaliate by closing the Swordland consulate in Dome. They think they can write an official diplomatic response condemning the unreasonable act. Declare that Rumburg aims to destabilize Swordland and the region. As you wish, Mr. President. I shall begin work by immediately informing the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Swaying the international stage is key in the long-term strategy. I wish we had reacted more strongly. If we don't confront them, they will keep escalating the situation. On the other hand, I'm glad that we are taking the more cautious road. There are 3 trade-related topics to address today. Which topic should we tackle first? Okay. I know we're in the middle of this one, but I'm going to go ahead and say this is a good spot to end it. We just got through that, and I don't want to go any further over my normal time. So yeah, this is a good time to go ahead and end this episode. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button. And as always, peace.